Why did the teacher accuse the black boy of lying about his father's job, without knowing that a four-star general was about to walk into the classroom? Jamal Turner's heart pounded as Mr. Harrison glared at him across the classroom and accused him of lying about his father's job at a military base, the words cutting through Jamal like a cold knife. And though he kept his composure, the whispers of classmates and the subtle smirks from some teachers made him feel isolated and small. But Jamal refused to let anger show. He straightened in his seat and explained calmly that his father was indeed a four-star general, a man who had served the country with honor and discipline for decades. Yet Mr. Harrison rolled his eyes, muttering under his breath that Jamal's stories were exaggerated, and a few students giggled, fueling the tension and making Jamal shrink slightly inside, while he silently wondered why the world seemed to doubt him because of the color of his skin. And he clenched his fists under the desk, feeling the weight of judgment and racism pressing down, wishing that someone in authority would recognize the truth. And just as Mr. Harrison began preparing to humiliate him further, the classroom door opened with a quiet authority, and in walked a tall, imposing man in a perfectly pressed uniform, his medals gleaming in the sunlight streaming through the windows, the students immediately falling silent and staring in awe. And Jamal's eyes widened in shock and relief as the man approached the teacher, speaking in a calm but commanding voice that made the room freeze. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding about my son." And Mr. Harrison's face drained of color, his arrogance faltering as the reality sank in that the boy he accused was the child of one of the most powerful and respected generals in the country. And for the first time, Jamal felt a mixture of pride and vindication, seeing justice manifest in real time. And the general knelt slightly, placing a reassuring hand on Jamal's shoulder, silently telling him that truth and integrity always mattered, while the class watched in stunned silence, learning in that single moment that prejudice and assumptions could crumble instantly when confronted with undeniable respect and authority. And as murmurs spread across the room, Jamal's classmates realized the depth of their misjudgment, some bowing their heads in embarrassment, while others whispered apologies. And Jamal felt a sense of relief and quiet triumph, knowing that today the truth had won, and he would carry this lesson forever. And if you believe Jamal showed courage and integrity, comment respect below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal the power of truth and justice. Jamal Turner felt a surge of pride as General Marcus Williams adjusted his uniform and surveyed the classroom, his calm yet commanding presence instantly silencing any remaining murmurs, while Mr. Harrison stammered, struggling to regain control, the color draining from his face as he realized the authority standing before him was far beyond anything he could command. And Jamal could see the subtle shame in the teacher's eyes, knowing he had underestimated a boy simply because of his skin. And as the general spoke, his voice firm but measured, explaining the truth about his service and the boy's integrity, every word resonated with power and respect, leaving the room utterly quiet, except for the occasional gasp of awe from the students. And Jamal felt a sense of vindication he had never known, finally recognized for his honesty and intelligence, and he realized how often adults let bias cloud their judgment. How assumptions based on race could make even a truthful child seem deceitful. And as the general turned to address Jamal directly, his gaze kind yet proud, Jamal's confidence grew, knowing he had been seen and validated by the person who mattered most. His father and Mr. Harrison's attempts to speak were cut short as the general continued to outline the importance of truth, respect, and fairness in every interaction, reminding the classroom that authority does not grant infallibility, and that assumptions should never replace listening and understanding. And Jamal's classmates, some shocked, some reflective, began to grasp the magnitude of what had occurred, witnessing a lesson far beyond the typical classroom, one about courage, honesty, and confronting prejudice. And Jamal could feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere, a quiet acknowledgement from students that they needed to rethink their biases, while Mr. Harrison stood frozen, finally realizing that respect is earned through integrity, not assumed position. And the general gave Jamal a small nod of reassurance, letting him know that courage and truth would always be recognized and rewarded. And Jamal held his head high, proud and validated, while the classroom absorbed the lesson in silence. And if you admire Jamal's courage and his father's wisdom, comment respect below and subscribe for more stories that challenge prejudice and celebrate integrity. Jamal Turner sat in his seat, heart pounding, as the classroom still buzzed with whispered astonishment from his classmates, while Mr. Harrison, flustered and pale, tried in vain to reclaim authority, but every attempt faltered against the quiet but undeniable presence of General Marcus Williams, who now walked slowly among the rows of desks, his polished shoes echoing on the floor, commanding attention without raising his voice. And Jamal realized how powerful it felt to be recognized not just for who he was, but for the truth he had always held, and as the general stopped beside Jamal's desk, he knelt slightly to meet his son's eyes, speaking in a calm, reassuring tone about integrity, courage, and the value of honesty, emphasizing that Jamal's actions today had set a standard for everyone, showing that even a child can stand tall when faced with doubt and prejudice. And Jamal felt a swell of pride as murmurs of admiration rippled through the classroom, some students leaning in to hear every word, while others looked at Mr. Harrison with newfound understanding that bias could blind even experienced adults. And the general continued, pointing out that respect is not demanded through position, but earned through truth and consistency, and that assumptions based on skin color, age, or status are often wrong, leading to unjust treatment and overlooked brilliance. Jamal noticed that Mr. Harrison's posture had slumped, realizing the lesson he had unintentionally been giving was one of arrogance and ignorance rather than guidance, and the students began to grasp a profound truth. Courage, honesty, and intelligence often hide in the most unexpected places, and sometimes it takes a strong voice to illuminate them. And General Williams took a moment to glance around the room, ensuring that every student understood the importance of questioning assumptions, listening before judging, and giving credit where it is truly due, and he emphasized that Jamal's father's achievements were extraordinary, yet his son's integrity was equally commendable, teaching them that true leadership and character are shown not only by rank, but by daily actions. And as the bell rang signaling the end of the lesson, the room remained silent for a beat longer, filled with reflection and awe, and Jamal felt a mix of relief and triumph. Knowing he had proven himself without arrogance, simply through honesty and composure, and Mr. Harrison avoided eye contact, quietly acknowledging that he had learned a lesson in humility and fairness that day, and Jamal's classmates, inspired by the event, whispered words of respect and admiration, and as General Williams gathered his coat to leave, he gave Jamal a subtle nod, a gesture that said more than words ever could, affirming his son's strength, and Jamal, sitting tall, knew this was a moment that would stay with him forever, a story of courage, truth, and confronting bias. And if you are moved by Jamal's bravery and the power of integrity, comment respect below and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that challenge injustice and celebrate true character. Jamal Turner left the classroom feeling a surge of pride and relief as whispers of respect and admiration followed him down the hallway, while Mr. Harrison lingered behind, shoulders slumped, wrestling with the humiliation of being proven wrong by a child he had underestimated, and the rest of the students walked past Jamal with a mix of awe and newfound respect, realizing that courage and integrity often reside where you least expect it. And as Jamal approached the school exit, General Marcus Williams followed closely, placing a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder, saying quietly that today's lesson was bigger than any grade. It was about character, honesty, and the courage to stand tall even when others doubt you. And Jamal nodded, feeling the weight of his father's words and the immense responsibility of setting an example for his peers. And outside the school, the sunlight poured down, casting long shadows on the pavement as bystanders watched with curiosity. Unaware of the extraordinary story that had just unfolded within those walls, and General Williams spoke to the gathered students, emphasizing the importance of recognizing talent and integrity without prejudice, and he pointed out that the teacher's bias had nearly silenced the truth, a truth that Jamal had held firmly despite ridicule, and the students listened intently, some whispering apologies to Jamal, acknowledging that their own assumptions had been clouded by ignorance. Mr. Harrison finally approached, clearing his throat, admitting his mistake with quiet humility, telling Jamal that he had learned a valuable lesson in fairness, respect, and the danger of judging too quickly, and Jamal accepted the apology with maturity beyond his years, knowing that true strength often lies in forgiveness and understanding, and General Williams smiled, proud of his son, who had handled the situation with dignity, proving that age and stature do not define courage. And Jamal realized that the impact of today's events would ripple far beyond the classroom, inspiring not only his peers, but also adults to rethink their assumptions. And as the school bell rang signaling the end of the day, Parents began arriving to pick up their children, some glancing curiously at Jamal and his father, sensing the quiet authority and respect emanating from them both. And as Jamal walked toward the car with General Williams, he reflected on the lessons learned. That truth cannot be silenced, prejudice can be confronted, and respect is earned through integrity and courage. And he knew that his actions today had made a mark not just in the classroom, but in the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. And as they drove away, General Williams reminded Jamal that this was just the beginning, and life would present many challenges, but standing firm in truth and honor would always be the way forward. And Jamal felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Understanding that bravery is not about confrontation, but about steadfastness in the face of doubt, and he looked out the window, imagining the ripple effect of his courage spreading through the school and beyond, changing perceptions and inspiring respect for those who are often underestimated. And as the sun set behind them, casting a warm glow over the streets, Jamal smiled, knowing he had made a difference. And if you are inspired by Jamal's courage and integrity, comment respect below and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that challenge bias, celebrate bravery, and honor true character.